Roll call, please. Yeah, I didn't want to say it.
Mrs. Jones? Here. Mrs. Mosser?
Here.
Mr. Methvin?
Here.
Mrs. Carey?
Here. And now our pledge to allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for making it out on this wet night. Do we have a technology report? No technology report.
Sure. Mic on.
Yeah, make sure you turn your mic on.
Ms. Kaufman, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Just a huge congratulations to Diane Culler and Loretta Mendenhall on their retirement. Diane has served all 34 years of her service here at Hicksville, and Loretta has served 18 of her 28 years. And so, unfortunately, with the circumstances, we can't give them the retirement party that they deserve, but we are having a virtual retirement party for them on Wednesday at 7. Huge thanks to Aaron Montgomery, who's been kind of my right-hand man and everything. We've got some surprises up our sleeves, and I did send out an instant alert to all 4th grade students today. We always meet Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. with our 4th grade kiddos. We've done that this whole time, so it's nothing new to them. But we've told them, like, if you don't see your friends on here, make sure that you bring them next week because we're going to have a celebration. And so we've invited Diane and Loretta to that, and we're going to have a little Hawaiian theme. And then, like I said, we have a few surprises up our sleeves for them. Also, the K-4 class list were posted today on Facebook. Students will be able to meet next year's teacher via Zoom. And those are scheduled for Thursday and Friday of this week. And the teachers had their class list last Thursday and Friday, so they could start looking to see if they had all of the email addresses for the families, and then they would email me the names that they didn't have, and I would cross-reference with PowerSchool and send those out. So the parents should be receiving those today. So kind of excited to be able to at least offer that opportunity. It's officially the CCIP season for me. This is a pretty extensive little beast that includes many conversations with the admin team, with the treasurer, and a variety of webinars to try to educate myself on the ever-changing educational world. This is where we receive our title money in mid-June, and then by the end of June, we have to know how it will be budgeted. But even before just getting that lump sum of money, there are extensive surveys and a variety of components that need to be completed on my end for the state level. And one that I'm working on right now is a new component called the One Needs Assessment. And this is actually something that's going to be, it will be mandatory for us to do next year, but we're allowed to do it this year. And I would rather try to do it this year, so if I get things wrong, I will have an opportunity to be able to fix things. This will basically become like our district-wide improvement plan. And so I've been sitting through webinars, talking to the state people. Once I determine this plan, it will go through about 17 different individuals before it becomes approved. And so a huge thanks to the admin team I did make a Google Doc of the questions, but I'd have to say even outside of just getting their help, I've probably put about 20 hours into it. I mean, it's crazy. And they do read these questions because they always bounce back to me of, oh, you need to use this type of wording in this question. So what I'll do from this plan, then I'm to the point that I will identify 3 SMART goals for our district. And I will have to identify the goal, the improvement area, the priority need, the root cause, and then how we're going to improve it through teacher and family engagement opportunities and how we're going to assess it. So the three goals that I have chosen for this district is our ongoing ELL population and PBIS and our social and emotional needs. So we are to the bottom part of this, and this will be due on June 30th. So I just wanted to give you an update on that, but that's basically all in the elementary world right now. So.
Jeff, go ahead. Thank you, Ms. Kaufman.
All right, good evening. To kind of not cover the exact same topic she is, I will hit on the distance learning piece. It's overall it's been very challenging. Whether you are a parent, a student, an administrator, just in education in general, it's been very challenging. But at the same time, I think our district has done an amazing job from beginning to end. Our students, the teachers, the non-traditional hours. I was talking to Mr. Dave Blue, and he was kind of cracking me up because he was saying how these students have become nocturnal, which I have 2 teenagers, and he was saying that he actually received a phone call one night at almost 1 o'clock in the morning because the kid had only been up for 4 hours, and the emails are coming in anywhere from 11 p.m. until 5 in the morning sometimes because that's when they're working. So again, the non-traditional hours have been challenging in working with the students, and of course working with parents, and then on the high school side. Making sure all our T's are crossed and I's are dotted for the commencement and graduation piece of these students has been interesting. But again, I appreciate all the time and effort the staff has put into that. On a positive note of the distance learning, all the educators in the building, if you would talk to them, I would probably say the hardest part was the communication piece and this idea of not working from that 7:45 to 3:15 time, but you just had to be available from the time you woke up until sometimes if you were already in bed because you wanted to communicate effectively with these kids. And our staff has really stepped up and done that. And I also like the fact that, on another positive note is, there was a lot of improved opportunities by our staff. I thought they did a great job. You always say you can't teach an old dog a new trick. I felt like there was a lot of staff members that took the opportunity of distance learning to improve their technology skills, to improve their ability to use Google Classroom for the first time. Everyone was using Zoom, and that's a stretch for a lot of people. But again, I just thought they understood the challenge, and they did a great job trying to do their best and providing the best opportunity possible for our students. So again, thank you to our entire staff, and that's not just the high school either, that's everyone. Collection of district-owned items. Just froze. Great. Here we go. Seniors have been dropping off items since last Friday. We had an 8-hour window Friday and another 8-hour window today. I believe every senior came in and dropped off all their computers, textbooks, all sorts of different things that they had from the teachers, whether they were actually district-owned items or personal items that were borrowed from teachers. But again, I appreciate all the students coming in and taking the time to do that. And we have a K-11 drop-off scheduled for the 3 days after Memorial Day. I know that those details were released in an instant alert, and of course they've been emailed out. But our goal, at least on the high school side, we were lucky enough to where it was kind of a last-second decision, and every time I bring it up, I apologize to Kirsten for it. We had our kids clean out their lockers before they left, and again, it was a last-second decision. And because of that, we truly are collecting items. We are not providing items back to our students. And we do have some items that belong to our kids, but we just think it's better to, with the traffic flow and just the whole thing of logistics, it's going to be, please give us our things, and if there's something we have, we will contact them at a later date for them to pick it up from the school at a scheduled time, because we're in the office pretty much all summer anyway, so that shouldn't be a challenge or a problem. And then, of course, commencement, big topic item. I know being a high school principal, it's been kind of challenging these last months, but again, overall, I know it's not a popularity contest, and I'm okay with that. I've never been that popular anyway. But I will say that we've had a lot of people reach out to the school. Whether it's the parents of our seniors, it's the community members, it's just other families in the community. They are really appreciating the efforts, and they understand that our hands are kind of tied with this situation, and we have limited options. I appreciate the support of the board and, of course, Mr. Countryman on this, and of course, everyone that's helped with establishing a commencement that is worthy of the class of 2020 and will provide as much normalcy as possible. And I'm just looking forward to the opportunity, you know, and I've said this before, and I want everybody to know this. You know, I've been to graduations, I've participated in them. This will be my 7th commencement already here at Hicksville. It just amazes me that this is to be the 7th time I've had a commencement. And of all the years, wherever I go and whatever I've spoken to my students' parents, you know, the number one reason they're here is to watch their student walk across that stage. You know, and it's not a disservice to all the other great things we do in there on that day, but you know, that's why they're there, to watch your kid walk across that stage. And I've listened to that for years. And you know, even when I drove down to Kentucky to watch my brother graduate from medical school, I was down there to watch him walk across that stage. I mean, I couldn't tell you one thing that the speaker said. And I think that is our goal, and we are going to allow our families to do that. I think that's going to be the most powerful part. And then, of course, I'm looking forward to Josh Fries and Mr. Murphy and the rest of the technology staff helping us out and putting together that video of everything that's pre-recorded. May 19th, 20th, and 21st, I think we're going to spend roughly 17 hours handing out diplomas.
I think so.
So that'll be exciting. And it's worth it because, again, that's the most important piece. And we're willing to give up that time. And then on Thursday, there's about a 2-hour time frame where we're going to bring in our speakers. Janice Green, our vice president of the class, Natalie Swenson, the president, and Val, and then of course Peyton Yoder, who's our salutatorian. They are going to come in, along with Mr. Countryman and myself, and we're going to do the speaking portion of the commencement and record that. That will all be put together. And then the goal is on May 31st at 2 p.m., which is when commencement should have been. We will then air the video, the completed video, at 2 p.m., like I said, the original start time. Typically, commencement lasts about an hour and 5 minutes. I assume that this one will last right around that time. There's a few things that won't be in there, but when I say that won't be in there, it's more based on, you know, we recognize people from like Poor County and other individuals that won't be here, so there's some that's going to be missing. But again, we have 80 students that we're going to be recording, so that may prolong it a little bit. But overall, I think it'll work its way out to where it's about a normal 1 hour and 5 minute commencement. If that ends at 3:05, then we've asked all of our seniors to then report to our main parking area, our teacher and overflow parking area, where we will have a caravan. And again, I did use the word caravan because we are not allowed to use the word parade. And at that point, as a class, we are going to recognize them and kind of finalize as a group, because we want to give some normalcy and camaraderie, and we're going to do the switching of the tassels with the entire group together, and then we'll start the caravan. And man, I'm begging the community for beautiful weather and everyone to be out there, because it sends a powerful message for our community, for these kids. So that's where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Mr. Hunter.
All right, and again, I'll try not to repeat myself too often as well. This is the last week for, last week was the last week that assignments were sent out. This week is the, hey, get your assignments in week. And I've asked all my teachers today to be reaching out, contacting everybody who you have zeros or missing assignments from in that kind of last-ditch effort to get as many grades in as we possibly can. So if you're getting phone calls from us, that would be why your student is missing at least one assignment from us. So we're doing our best to get those assignments in. I also wanted to wish Mrs. Twyla Thiel congratulations on her retirement. Again, her career is probably not ending the way she expected it to end, but we'll try to do a little something for her as well in her retirement. So congratulations, Mrs. Thiel, and thank you for all that you do for our kids. Like Mr. Slattery said, drop-off is May 26th and May 27th. That information was sent out. Please refer to the map for the different times. If you do have a kid in multiple grade bands, the K6, 7, multiple grade bands, the K4, 5, 8, 9, 12, you may have to go through multiple loops in order to get all that stuff passed out, but that's just easier to kind of keep us all spread out and allow us to a little more room as we collect that stuff and pass stuff back out. The 2019-2020 middle school awards are complete, and a big thank you to Mr. Josh Fries All of our teachers made videos just like they would have normally as they're going to pass out their awards, and he compiled it to make one long video that will go out either this evening, depending on the time we get out of here, or sometime tomorrow. So those are complete, and there was a lot to celebrate this year. It wasn't all negative, it wasn't all bad. There's still a lot of good things, and we want to make sure that those kids have the opportunity to be celebrated for the good that did happen this year. So look for those, and then I believe the teachers are going to be mailing out their awards to those teachers or those students who did win them. So middle school students, I think there was 178 who recorded some sort of honor roll, and so our kids did very well, and we're very proud of them. May 4th and May 8th was Teacher Appreciation Week, and I think with everything going on right now, we really appreciate our teachers more than ever. And a huge thank you to all of them, to all of our parents and everybody. We really do appreciate all that you guys have been doing, and the way that it's all worked out has not always been easy, but our teaching staff, and I know Jeff and Kirsten mentioned it as well, have been downright amazing, and finding new and unique ways to engage with kids, to interact with kids, to make it fun. We talk, I feel like I'm on Zoom 24 hours a day. It gets old. At the beginning it was really cool, and now it's like, oh great, here comes another Zoom meeting. But they've done such a great job of still finding ways to make it cool, to make it interesting, to make it fun. Fifth grade in about an hour here, they're having ghost stories, and they've been doing it every Monday night, and the kids show up with their s'mores and around a campfire, and everybody's in the dark, and they tell a ghost story. And then while they're telling that story, they weave in, what this week's lesson is. Don't forget, you need to do this for me, this and this. Oh, by the way, don't forget. So they kind of find cool ways to incorporate the kids, to make it fun, to make it interesting. And in fact, tonight, what they're doing, the fifth grade staff is actually introducing the sixth grade staff to the students during these ghost stories, and some of the sixth grade teachers will be telling the ghost stories tonight, just so it's not next year is not a totally foreign thing, and probably my biggest concern is we went into this, you had relationships with kids, and you knew what they struggled with, and the teachers knew each other, and we're not going to have that if it starts off this way next year, and heaven forbid we have to start that way. That's probably my biggest fear, is how do we create those relationships with kids that we don't currently have? How do we make sure that those kids are able to understand the expectations that the teachers have and understand the way that we're going to do it? That's going to be a problem. And so I think by starting right now, Kirsten having Zooms with her teachers and my teachers kind of doing some of that Zooming as well, try to create that relationship, because it's going to be something that takes time and we're going to have to figure out. So again, kudos to all of our teachers and all of our parents who've done so much for our kids. And I think that is what I have. Thank you.
So question on what are you doing with the house? I mean, normally at the end of the year you do your big house, who won, and the reveal, and...
Well, I think we declared Amici the winners for once. No. Amici was winning, and I think what we decided to do is we're going to do something a little bit for them in the fall to honor their victory, but then we're actually, not their victory, they're ahead at the end of the year, but we're going to continue going with all of our house points and do it a bigger party or a bigger celebration at the end of next school year. So we're going to honor and respect the fact that Amici would have won, pretty confident, and I believe Mrs. Geiger is taking the pie in the face though, right? Mrs. Geiger is taking the pie in the face, so she's obviously acknowledging as well that we would have won.
Honestly, she wanted you guys to win because she felt that she had to put a pie in Joey's face, who's the nicest name in the world, that the kid would turn against her. So she was happy
to take the pie. So we are going to honor them, but the points will continue into next school year.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all.
All right. I don't have a four-county report currently. So, Mr. Countryman, your superintendent's report.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat some of the things that they've already mentioned too, so I'll try to not to do that. But for a building update, the drive to 18 and the service drive have all been carved out. There are a few places where they need to reinforce the dirt, which we expected that to happen. Obviously, the weather changed before they were able to get those spots fixed because we had to wait for approval from PSI last week. So once the rain stops and it dries out, they'll get those spots repaired, and then they'll be able to lay that foundation of stone in the drive area. Up until that point, though, we've had perfect weather. I mean, they've really worked fast and got quite a bit done. The custodians have been cleaning rooms inside the building, and a lot of them are already finished classrooms. The elementary rooms have been prepared with the exception of student material. The teachers came in and kind of closed up their rooms, but the material that Kirsten's kids have to return is all bagged up and labeled so that we can distribute those after Memorial Day and get those back to the kids. I continue to have Zoom sessions with the 4 county superintendents. Currently, our biggest discussion was graduation, what each district was trying to do for graduation, or making that all come together as best they could for the kids. And I just would like to say that Jeff has done a super job making this really special for the kids. I know he's spent a lot of time and put a lot of thought into doing everything he can to make it as special for them as possible. And Jeff, I just want you to know that I really appreciate that, because it means a lot to the school district, to the board members, myself, and of course for the kids. Once the school year's over, then I'm sure that our topic's going to switch to next year, and all the what ifs that we're all thinking right now on what if this, what if that. It's, I don't want to speculate and say, I mean, there's been a lot of rumors and stuff that are out there. To be honest, I don't think, it's way too early to even think about that. So let's hold off, get started in June, and I'm sure that the governor's topics and district topics will all start heading towards what we're going to do in the fall. If we come back full-time, part-time, how that's going to look. So I hope that and pray that we're back full-time and we have those kiddos right here with us, because we certainly miss them not being here. I tell you, it's pretty quiet in the building, that's for sure, without the kids. So, and then I'd just like to echo the congratulations to Diane and Loretta and Twyla. I worked with them all for several years as the principal, and they were lots of fun and touched the lives of lots of kids, and grateful for them and happy for them as they start this new phase in their life. So that's all I have.
Jeff, I did want to say I have heard from a couple different senior parents, and I've heard very good things. Everybody's trying to be understanding, but I think they like the plans that you guys had developed. And a big shout out for doing the banners uptown. They look great. They just look amazing, and
Yeah, somebody said we should do that every year. They like those.
they are really nice. So.
And a big shout out to the city, because, for the village, because this was a big class of 80 kids, and there weren't enough pillars or posts to hang up everyone. There were like 64 of those. And so we had contact with Mike Carr, thank him, and then we worked with the village to see if they could come up with an idea. They put some additional attachments or posts or something on there, so all 80 kids could be up there. So it wasn't an easy process. So what you thought would always take a few days to get printed, how that ended up being about 3 weeks. So again, sometimes I think people forget that it's not always easy. And there's a lot of people involved to make something like that happen. And of course, the senior class advisors, they had some additional money left over to be able to purchase those banners, so that's who purchased them.
Oh.
And I believe in June they take them down, they'll return them to the high school, and then contact the parents, tell them they can come pick up those banners and make them happen.
And the village hung them all too. That was awesome. That's that great community we live in again.
Very true.
Great.
Okay. We'll move on to minutes and financials. Need a motion?
I'll move.
Did we?
Second.
I'm sorry. Is that Steph?
Steph and Galen.
Okay, we have the minutes from the regular board meeting on April 20th, 2020. The treasurer's consent agenda items to approve the cash reconciliation as of April 30th, 2020. Approve financial statements for April 20, 2020. Approve amended official certificate of estimated resources for fiscal year 2020 as presented. The total general fund resources of $14,160,989.52 and resources of all funds of $24,621,020.36. Approve fiscal year 2020 amended permanent appropriations as presented. Total general fund appropriations of $11,270,121.46 and total appropriations for all funds of $20,108,153.65. Approve the establishment of K-12 Prevention Education Initiative Fund with $12,432 grant received through the 4-county ADAMHS board as presented. Authorize the treasurer to enter into the Ohio School Comp Group Retrospective Rating Workers' Compensation Program administered by the Comp Management as the district's third-party administrator, effective with policy year beginning January 1st of 2021. Accept the following donations of $1,000 from Your Cause LLC Parker Hannafin Scholarship. Comments or questions? Okay, roll call please.
Okay, Mrs. Mazur,
Yes.
Mr. Methvin,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Carrier.
Yes, motion approves 4 with 1 absent. We are not going to approve the 5-year forecast at this time, correct? But you wanted to discuss it?
Yes, I don't have the 5-year forecast completely updated. Partly is due early, about a week or so ago, the state came out with some cuts that we hadn't really been aware of that was going to happen. And it kind of, and that was cuts involving this fiscal year itself. Hicksville was reduced in state foundation funding by nearly $144,000 to be taken out of our foundation, second pay in May, and the first 2 pays the 2 pays in June. So, also with that in mind, with the various things, there's so many unknowns where things might go. And they're not all going to be settled by May 31st when I have to have the 5-year forecast reported to the state of Ohio. But anything that does clarify itself will be helpful in putting together the forecast. Some things regarding, there has been some good news regarding our finances. Through the end of April, we were $83,000 ahead of last year, which we did finish the year in the black last year. So we were a bit ahead of that, ahead of what the forecast was. Unfortunately, with the $144,000, we may or may not end up the year in the black. We will obviously know here shortly, next couple of months, next month and a half. But that's good news to know that financially we were ahead of last year, and that's basically on that school district, or not, I shouldn't say that, it was the property tax came in higher than expected, was the biggest reason why we're running higher than we were a year before. Some other good news that's happening with things is our insurance company for our property liability fleet Ohio school plan, they have committed to giving us a refund, partial refund of our premiums for this past year. They have not come out and notify us what the calculated amount is, but there will be something there. We do have some unemployment claims that have been coming in. The CARES Act does have a clause in there where 50% of that basically will be taken care of through the CARES, through the federal government. So unemployment claims that we do have will be reduced by 50% through this time period. Speaking of further in the forecast, it's kind of a team document. I can't sit here and alone put together the forecast without assistance, and what was it, a week and a half ago or so, the admin team sat down together. We discussed, talked about funding cuts and so forth that was coming out. We also talked about what can the district itself do, where can we find savings, what are things that we would normally do but we're okay putting them off because there won't be any permanent damage. For example, resurfacing a gym floor or something. Normally we would do it, but can we wait? And so discussions with Eric says, yeah, we can at least wait. So there's a number of things, kind of challenged or asked the admin team to think of different ways that where can we find some cuts in things that are, especially those things that are going to cause the least amount of pain. We have began looking at the beginning of the year to at least reduce the teacher supplies amount by 50%, and then partly because as of right now, we don't know, are we going to be in the building come at the beginning of the school year, or is it going to be delayed? Also, there are supplies that staff members have had that they really didn't use up this last 2.5 months of the school year. So we're going to continue to take a look at that, amongst other things. And I think I gave you some information last time as far as utility savings, fuel savings for buses, substitute savings. Those are all things that have done some saving for our district, but none of those add up just to the $144,000 cut that we got in this year alone in the foundation. Speaking on Zoom meetings myself, I've been on a number of those, either locally with treasurers or statewide with state officials, and it sounds like most of them are looking to put in their forecast a 10% reduction in funding, school funding through the state next year. That is, you know, there's nobody with a crystal ball. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. We also don't know, originally there was talk that, well, maybe the rainy day fund would help us not have any cuts in this fiscal year. Well, the governor, he decided, probably very smart to do so, in that the worst might be yet to come, so let's not use up our rainy day fund in this fiscal year and preserve it for another time if need be. So will we see some of the rainy day fund in 21 if the cuts are substantial? Still unknown. So the forecast is going to be a lot of what ifs. What if the rainy day fund helps us? What if it doesn't help us? What might those cuts look like? Casino monies are going to be down the next year. School district income tax, there's going to be, there will be reductions there as far as income, property tax. There is nothing, I think, as I know, Defiance County's not delaying the upcoming summer property tax, but with the way situations were, I could see some of that being held off. People maybe end up being delinquent, and we might not see that money till down the road. So it could be a timing issue, and hopefully we eventually do get it. Another piece of better news is the Bureau, BWC, gave us a refund on 18 Bureau Workers' Comp insurance year. That was about $18,000. We've already received that, so that is in our coffers. That would not have had to been done, but it was. Through the CARES Act, Hicksville Schools is expecting to be granted $126,000 or thereabout. That sounds great in itself. I mean, especially when you compare it to the $144,000 cut. However, this might be the only thing we get through the CARES Act or through federal funding. So that basically we'll have close to 2 years to spend that money. That might be the only money we get, whereas the state funding continues to be cut. It's another thing that we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but that's kind of, that is out there, and that can affect our finances moving forward. The state has also stated that we have money that the state pulls out and gives to community schools. The state has said they're going to cut that back. They haven't said how much yet, so I don't know. So the amount of money that is pulled out of our funds and given to community schools is yet to be announced, but we'll have a little savings there. I presume that same thing may work with open enrollment. If it does, that's actually going to probably hurt us because we have more kids opening and enrolling in than we have leaving us. So that's another area to keep an eye on as we move forward financially. Just looking at my notes, anything else here? Pretty much there as far as the forecast, but how it's going to play out is I will meet the deadline at the end of May and then present the forecast to you guys in June. Obviously, there's always the opportunity, if you look at it and say, look, Mike, we think you should do something different, I can resubmit a forecast to the state. But it will be done by the end of the month. It will be presented to you at the next board meeting to vote on from there on. One other thing I wanted to mention, unrelated to the forecast, et cetera, but we have received money from Cecilia for the senior trip. She was able to get enough money back from the money that was spent for hotels and busing and shows and everything else to reimburse our community members. All of our parents and students who paid in for the senior trip got a full 100% reimbursement.
That's great.
So I was very pleased that we were able to do that. I think I'm sure Cecilia probably put a lot of effort and time in. I know she struggled with getting a hold of contacts, especially with the trip being in New York City, and New York City was, shut down like nobody else was there for quite some time. So that's all I have.
Mike, I just want to reiterate again how thankful I am that you are on our team. You've done a great job. You've done a great job researching things and keeping your, the knowledge there and keeping up on a lot of different things that are changing very rapidly and how that affects us, and we greatly appreciate it. So thank you. And
Greatly. Amen.
You did a really good job of balancing the good news with the bad news. So that kind of sprinkled back and forth.
Well, one of the things that was discussed in the various Zoom meetings and stuff is, first of all, it's got to be a team approach. You can't stand on an island by yourself. It's the board's forecast. But, try to stay away from knee-jerk reactions. We're not sure what's going to happen, but what's the best anticipated thing. And, one of the good things about how this has played out is back in the Great Recession in 2008, our economy was fundamentally a mess, the country's economy. There were a lot of things that were going wrong. Heading into this, our economy was not a mess. It was doing well. So, it's another force. We don't know where this force is all going to take us and whatnot, but economically and our country was doing very well until this happened. So with that in mind, the anticipation is the bounce back will be much quicker than the bounce back was some 10, 12 years ago.
We hope.
I do too.
We hope.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll move on to employment of certified staff. Need a motion, please?
I'll move.
Minda, thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Steph. Recommend to approve the updated certified substitute list provided monthly by Northwest Ohio Education Service Center. Recommend to non-renew the following contracts at the conclusion of the 1920 school year. Mackenzie Coleman, Brianna Culler, Kate Haggerty, Stacy Wagner. Recommend to non-renew all certified supplemental contracts at the conclusion of the 1920 school year or at the end of the activity. Recommend to approve the following as substitute teachers for the 2021 school year: Ed Foster, Paul Overmeyer, Nancy Swift, Kevin Strubing, and Sue Strubing.
Just a comment on the 4 title teachers, Mackenzie, Brianna, Kate, and Stacy. That's normal to do that every year. We have to wait for our funding that Kirsten spoke about earlier before we determine how many we can have come back. So they're paid through the title funds. So they're all 4 wonderful employees, and they've been a great asset for us. So they're not leaving, just on hold.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Mazur,
Yes.
Mr. Methvin,
Yes.
and Mrs. Carrier.
Yes. Passes 5 with 1 absence. A motion for employment of classified staff.
I'll move.
Thank you, Galen.
I'll second.
Thank you, Minda. Recommend to accept the resignation from Whitney Thiel as cheerleading assistants, grades 9 through 12. Recommend to approve the updated classified substitute list provided monthly by Northwest Ohio Education Service Center. Recommend to non-renew all classified supplemental contracts at the conclusion of the 1920 school year or at the end of the activity. Recommend to approve a supplemental contract to the following in the amount of $750 for the summer of 2020 technology assistance: Jackson Bergman, Brandon Hamilton, Noah Schaefer. Recommend to approve the following as classified substitutes for the 2021 school year: Becky Bailey, Sheila Baker, Nicole Garza, Angie Johnson, Pam Payne, Phil Romero, Paula Scranton, John Smith, Sue Strubing, Nancy Swift, Carrie Bowles, Laura Wolford. Any comments? Okay, roll call, please.
All right. Mr. Methvin,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Mazur,
Yes.
and Mrs. Carrier.
Yes. 4 with 1 absence. Services and agreements. Need a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you, Steph.
Second.
Thank you, Galen. Recommend to approve a memorandum of understanding by and between the Hicksville Exempted Village Schools and the Hicksville Education Association for Certified Employee Evaluations. Recommend to approve a service agreement with Intertech PSI for construction materials testing and observation services for the athletic complex project. Recommend to approve a quote from Feller's Plumbing for replacing all waterless urinals to watered urinals. The estimated cost of service is $16,966.32. Recommend to approve a memorandum of understanding by and between Defiance College and Hicksville Exempted Village Schools from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th of 2021 for the hosting of teacher education candidates. Recommend to approve a mentor program service agreement with Northwest Ohio Education Service Center for the 2020-21 school year. Recommend to approve a service agreement for the Defiance County Board of Developmental Disabilities to provide educational services from August of 2020 through June of 2021. The district will be assessed $5,000 per student for the excess cost. Any questions or comments?
How many students participate in that? Do we know?
At Defiance County Board of Developmental, 3, 2 or
I
3.
was just
I think it's
curious.
2 or 3. Yeah, I'm not positive, Galen. I'd have to look up, but I know there's 2 for sure.
But of all the different programs that we use, that's
Yeah.
the
it's-
cheapest
Yeah.
by far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
By far.
I remember having that conversation before. Okay, any other comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Mazur,
Yes.
Mr. Methvin,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Carrier.
Yes, 4 with 1 absence. We're going to go to the addendum. Oh, no, I'm sorry, other business first.
I'll move.
Thank you, Minda. Second. Steph. recommend to approve the 2020 list of graduates pending completion of all requirements. Recommend to approve the safety operations plan for the school district.
And I have that plan here. That is a confidential document. So if you want to look at it before you leave tonight, you can. I can fill you in on what changes were made, very minor, but it's very similar to what we had last year. So I didn't print off 5 copies, but I have one here if you want to, you board members want to take a look at it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Mazur?
Yes.
Mr. Methvin?
Yes.
And Mrs. Carrier?
Yes. 4 with 1 absence. And now the addendum to other business. I'll need a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Steph, Galen. To approve the resolution, we don't have a number. This resolution is a contingency plan for the 1920 school year in the event the school is closed for more than the hours permitted under the board policy and state law.
Yeah, this contingency plan didn't get to us in time for our April board meeting, so it's kind of in the rears really of doing it that way, but it's that the district will come up with a plan to provide education to the kids electronically, which we've been doing. So I just felt we should still have that approved, so that's why that's there.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Mrs. Mazur?
Yes.
Mr. Methvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Carrier?
Yes. 4 approves 4 to with 1 absence. So we will be going into, I'm sorry, do we have any unannounced guests? All right. We will be going into executive session. We will not be taking any,
No action.
thank you, no action afterwards. And our next meeting, so the public knows,
June 15th?
June 15th. At 5:30. Okay. So it's, do you want to say 6:30 that we'll go in executive session? For number 1, to consider an appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, demotion, etc. Motion?
I'll move.
Second.
I'm sorry, was that Minda?
Yeah.
Minda, Galen. To go in at 6:30.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Methvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Mazur?
Yes.
Mrs. Carrier?
Yes. Approves 4 with 1 absence.
Right?
Yes, we are adjourned.